So I was talking about this rapid fire turnover of political appointees. It takes a long time to get them approved. They serve for a period of time and then they move on. Well, why is that a problem? Well, it's because they just barely learn about the Washington environment. They just get their feet on themselves and they start getting rolling and then they move. Well, that undermines teamwork. Well, why does that undermine teamwork? Well, between the GS systems 1 through 15, and the president and their presidential appointees, there is a small band of stability there. We'll talk about it in a second. But when your boss's bosses are leaving every 2 years, those civil servants who worked for on average at least 25 years, they don't really want to take the guidance or the direction of the new leaders. So the leaders become totally ineffective when they try to say, like, we're going to change this new program. It's going to bless your life. It's going to help you be better. Well, the civil servants are like, well, you're going to be gone in 2 years. I'm not going to obey you. I'm not going to do these things. And so it makes the bureaucracy really kind of independent because they're these career civil servants. We've got executive leadership up here that's trying to like help them, but they're really not committed. You know, they're moving on. So that's a significant problem. The other problem is that we're constantly getting new people. So inside the executive office of the president, they're constantly looking for new people to put into these political appointee positions. And like I said before, the presidents they do dumb things in their last year of office. They start pardoning people they shouldn't be pardoning. They start designating massive amounts of land as national monuments. And if you're, say, for example, the head of the Department of Interior, and they designate a huge amount of land so that you can't use oil and gas, and you used to be an oil executive, now you're head of the Department of Interior, and now the president's set offside all this area so you can't use it. Like, no oil and gas company is going to say, oh, I really want that person. They used to be the head of the Department of Interior, but, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, they set up all this land that we can't now use. They just get a bad reputation. So these presidential appointees, they start leaving before everything turns bad, which means that now we have executive leadership that's not being very effective. So a couple of suggestions. The Volcker Commission said, how about this? We're going to look at reducing the number of political appointees. Let's make this much more professional. Let's go from 3,000 to 2,000. They're serving for a short period of time. It undermines the president's ability to govern. The president's now trying to staff. If we shrink that number, put some more career people in there, that might be really helpful for stability. They also, in the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, created the Senior Executive Service. There used to be, in the civil service system, GS 16, 17, and 18. And they were all civil servants. But they had those really strict rules under the civil service about accountability and pay and what their position classification was and stuff. Well, what the Reform Act did is it stripped them from civil service protections. So they could be fired at will most of the time, or at least with easier. And it also gave them flexibility to be hired for a variety of different things. There wasn't a classified position that they had to conform to those rules. And so we created this essentially a little barrier between the civil service career with protections and the political appointees. We create this bridge, or maybe it's even a buffer. I don't know how you want to think about it, where we have people who are generally long-time serving career professionals who enter the SES, who have expertise. You know, they're well educated, they've had long service in government, they give up the civil service protections to sort of create a longer impact in the SES, and then in the SES we also have some political appointees. So it becomes this kind of bridge where we see political patronage and civil service interact, but those career leadership in the SES is more stable. It's able to engender progression. It's a place where if you've worked as a GS 15 and you want to take on more additional responsibilities, you give up that, your income can be bigger, but you can also be tasked with a whole range of things that you maybe wouldn't do, but you have a loyalty and a commitment to those people who work below you in the same way like a political appointee may not have. Now, characteristics of the SES are a little different than civil service. You know, the qualifications are, do you lead change? Do you know how to lead people? Are you driven in your results, like outcome-oriented? Do you have some business acumen, you know, budgeting, soft skills like people, and building coalitions? Do you know how to bring the right people together to get some job done? This is important not just for the SES leaders, but for all levels of government. You know, if you're in the GS, in the GS, and you're working and you get these soft skills, you'll start rising up. You know, you have better face-to-face contact, you have better performance. We're looking for ways to help people increase in their career, not just in income, but opportunities to serve and in different ways to maximize their talents. And so the SES is really focused on that, and it's because they've taken that career service out, the civil service protection. Now, when we start talking about how we develop, recruit, and retain these people, political appointees show up because they know somebody. Okay, that's fine. And they largely are maybe they're trying to be helpful, but I don't always trust their motives. Those people and those career leaders in the SES are extremely crucial at what happens downstream in the lower levels. We have way more political appointees than most other places. We need to recruit good top leaders. We need to get people in those organizations that'll stay, that'll really work out some of the really difficult challenges, but also help people grow. Now, there's this uncomfortable relationship between the length of careers for appointees and the careerists, those people who've served in the civil service system, and political appointees. Most of that is contained in the SES, but you feel it in the civil service. And we have this problem of long-term service and rapid fire turnover among political appointees. In fact, let's go there really quickly. There is an article in Brookings from February 2020 that looks at turnover in the Trump administration. Now, I'm not going to rail on the Trump administration. I'm going to praise the Trump administration, but Brookings has at least gathered some data that I think is important. So the thing that's important here is the A team, these are like high-level important people. And if we look across the bottom, we look at, this is turnover in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and then total turnover. Now, total turnover for President Trump is about the same as Reagan, slightly more than President Clinton. And so the total turnover is about the same, but he's in his start of his 4th year right now when they have that data. But look at what the turnover is for that first year. And the Trump administration has the highest level of first-year turnover. And then we get like second-year turnover, we have President Reagan, but then followed closely behind by President Trump. Turnover in his organization has been very, very, very fast. You generally don't see that in the first year. I mean, look across the other presidents. Most people turn over in the 2nd or 3rd year, and then they stay out the 4th. And we have sort of a different shape of curve in the Trump administration. Those are from the top leaders. We're talking about senior staff members. And these are all of them. Let's go down to a different graphic down here. Some of these positions have had 5 different leaders in 4 years. It's unbelievable. Okay, so this is the cabinet. These are the top 15 leaders under the Trump administration. In the first year, downright the highest number. It's just unbelievable. The second year, also the highest number. In fact, it rivals the total number of turnover for Reagan, and more than the total turnover for Clinton among them. He's just way outpacing the number of people who are turning over there. Imagine now if you're working in the Trump administration. Even his 3rd-year turnover rate is extremely high. H.W. Bush is the highest there, and we're talking about like massive amount of turnover in H.W. Bush's 3rd term. But nevertheless, if you work in the Trump administration downstream in civil service and you see new heads of departments going on all the time, you have new bosses with new ideas. They're trying to do new things, and the president is rapidly firing some of these people or forcing them to resign. There's no stability in leadership there. So is my job secure? Oh yeah, but what about in the SES? Well, not so much. And if we're going to get criticism, if it's going to be harsh, who President Trump is routinely known for, like, then people leave those positions quickly, and it creates this undermining of teamwork, like we're all working together. We can look at all these people, where they've gone and how they've been, but there's a number of really cool stuff, information in that article. But the whole idea here is that people matter in the organization. If we have a 25-year career servant who's been there for a long time, and maybe they're in their early 60s, and they're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to stay. They're going to stay to help bring up the rising generation, to train. They have so much institutional knowledge. They know how the system works. They know where the deficiencies are. We want to keep those people as long as we can because they provide some stability. But there's civil service flexibility problems, like we can't pay them more. We can't sort of just create new jobs for them above this GS-15 level, and those SES positions require a different skill set. So we have to figure out new and innovative approaches to recruit and retain good people. And this is difficult because we can only do what the law tells us we can do. there is a significant problem among government agencies about how we recruit and retain the very best people, pay them well, give them leadership opportunities, give them opportunities to grow and develop. So some of these human capital problems actually create more problems because of the instability and the turnover. They undermine our ability to actually govern very well. So people really matter, and recruiting the best, retaining them, giving them opportunities to lead, protecting them, engendering new ideas, all crucial, but really require leadership from the top to get that done.